Julie eyes the creature's immense form, her concern not for its strength, but for her own precision. A single missed strike would invite a devastating counterattack. She understood the beast's thick hide would trap her blade on a deep thrust. Speed and pinpoint accuracy were her only paths to victory. She lunges forward, a silver blur of motion, but the monster merely tilts its massive head, causing her perfectly aimed strike to glance off its powerful arm. A wave of frustration washes over her. The orc had sidestepped her attack so effortlessly. She instinctively creates distance, reassessing this unexpected challenge. Still, she found a sliver of hope. The blade had pierced its flesh, however shallowly, allowing her to withdraw her sword without issue. The orc gave no quarter, unleashing a furious barrage of attacks that forced Julie into a desperate dance of dodges against a storm of brutal blows. Amidst the relentless assault, a momentary opening appeared. She seized it, her blade flashing in a swift counter that left a shallow gash across the opponent's neck. A surge of relief coursed through Julie as she realized her attacks were finally landing. Emboldened, she unleashed a fluid combination of strikes, victory felt within her grasp, knowing just a few more well-placed blows would seal its fate. With grim determination, she pressed her advantage. The mighty orc, riddled with wounds, finally crashed to the ground in defeat. A smile of pure disbelief and hard-won triumph spread across her face. She had done it, defeated an orc in single combat. Her moment of glory was cut short by the sound of approaching footsteps, and she spun around, senses on high alert. There he stood, the protagonist, his signature scythe resting on his shoulder. Julie rubbed her eyes, wondering if the battle's strain was playing tricks on her mind. Could it truly be him, the one they called the Black Reaper, the very person she had been tirelessly searching for all this time? Fate, it seemed, had a twisted sense of humor. He had found her instead. Yet, to her utter disbelief, he walked right past her without a second glance. Her mind racing, she finally found her voice and called out. The protagonist paused, turning back with an indifferent expression to ask what she wanted. Hesitantly, she posed the question, could she join his group? His impassive facade shifted, his eyes narrowing, as he demanded she repeat the audacious request. She gathered her courage and asked once more, only for him to counter with a cold, pragmatic question. Why, exactly, should he accept her? The weight of his inquiry left her momentarily speechless. Instead of fumbling for words, she closed the distance between them, declaring, I'll show you why. Without a moment's hesitation, she channeled her innate ability, casting a powerful blessing that instantly surged through his body, enhancing all of his attributes. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, a convincing performance, given that he was already well aware of her capabilities and was merely feigning ignorance. With a warm smile, she explains that her ability is called Blessing, and it lasts for 3 hours. It increases all attributes by a staggering 50% during that time. Raymond, feigning a glance at his system, coolly says he understands. She then asks if that answers his question, pointing out how such a powerful enhancement could be decisive in his future hunts. He challenges her, asking if he should form a team just for a temporary buff. She insists it's worth it, and pleads for his help with her hunt. Raymond, still maintaining his calculated facade, says he's not sure yet. He reminds her that with the temporary authority of a ruler, he could simply command her to be his personal assistant. The realization shocks her. She hadn't considered that, and it would indeed make having her on the team completely redundant. If he could just force her to help, what was the point? But then he pivots, asking if she could promise never to betray him. She replies instantly that she would never even consider it. Satisfied, he says that's good enough, and that he will trust her. Extending his hand, he formally introduces himself as a Death Reaper, level 32, with the nickname Black Reaper. She follows suit, introducing herself by her nickname, Democracy, a level 13 support class. Raymond changes the subject, asking what kind of help she truly needs, because from what he observed, she fought quite capably against the orc. The girl confesses that, actually, that was her very first kill. A worried look crosses his face as he asks if she really managed only 1 kill in 30 minutes. Embarrassed, she lets out a faint chuckle and confirms it. Raymond states grimly that they don't have much time. He declares he will help her take down as many as possible. His quick decision to help leaves her astonished. The two then begin moving through the forest, and he instructs her to always stay right beside him. He warns that he won't be able to protect her if she strays from his direct line of sight. Democracy quickly agrees and moves closer, thinking that the infamous Black Reaper isn't nearly as cold as he seemed. A profound wave of relief washes over her, thankful she had the chance to hear Raymond's words back in the real world. The thought had barely crossed her mind when a horrifying sight materialized before them, a trio of hulking orcs, blocking their path. A wave of panic washed over her at the sight of the three beasts, but Leon simply shifted the grip on his scythe, his voice a low, steady command. Just a moment. With a powerful stomp that shook the very ground, he launched himself toward the monstrous figures. In a single, fluid motion, his blade swept through the air, severing the legs of all three creatures and leaving them utterly helpless on the forest floor. Just as a sliver of relief began to surface, Leon realized the assault wasn't over. Another attack was already upon him. The follow-up strike surgically removed both his left and right hands, and Julie could only watch, utterly frozen in shock, as Leon effortlessly incapacitated them all. Instantly, his intimidating aura flared, his cold gaze locking onto her. "This is your chance," he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Finish them. What are you waiting for?" Snapping back to reality, the girl apologized and cautiously approached the downed orc, her conscience demanding she proceed with care. She then delivered a single, precise blow to the monster's neck, felling it instantly and earning 2.35% experience and 40 gold in the process. A jolt of surprise ran through her. It felt far too simple, almost anticlimactic. She had braced herself for a much more perilous encounter, and a cold sweat began to form on her brow. She wondered if dispatching an orc was always this straightforward, but as she glanced at Leon, she knew the truth. His power was on an entirely different level. At that moment, he turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "Let's go. We're not finished yet." Without another word, she scrambled to follow. A genuine smile touched her lips, utterly thrilled to be a part of his group. After felling another orc, she couldn't help but voice her admiration. "You're incredibly skilled," she began, her voice filled with awe. "I never imagined a hunt could be this effortless because of you." Her praise, however, was met with a stoic silence. He was a man of few words, asking only, "How many have you taken down?" 52, she replied, still amazed. "And in just 30 minutes. That has to be a record." But Leon knew that while this pace was astonishing for any other player, for him, it was painfully slow. He understood that pushing deeper into a goblin village was a gamble. This methodical approach, while tedious, was necessary. He knew with grim certainty that he couldn't possibly shield her if they were suddenly swarmed by 50 orcs at once. This leads him to a single conclusion. They must find an orc shaman, a realization that brings a brilliant smile to her face. She beams, suggesting they could easily dispatch 300 orcs within 3 hours, but he sharply cuts through her optimism. He insists they have no time to spare. Their deadline is a mere 1 hour. Startled, she asks if he is serious, and how such a feat is even possible. He then unveils his strategy. They must locate an orc shaman, the specific monster responsible for summoning the endless hordes of orcs. He knows that by targeting this single creature, the need to hunt down individual monsters will be entirely eliminated. The shaman, he explains, will summon reinforcements without pause. With this knowledge, he issues a stern warning. She is not to defeat the shaman. Instead, they will exploit its power, using it as a living lure to summon orcs until they have vanquished the 300 required by their mission. Julie, completely astonished, asks how he possesses such intricate knowledge about the monster's behaviors. Probing further, she asks if this is his first time seeing them, to which he calmly explains that he has fought against them before. It is because of this past experience, he reveals, that he understands their exact locations and tactics. A look of dawning comprehension crosses her face. He reassures her that he will execute the plan in the safest way imaginable, before turning and striding into the depths of the forest. The girl watches him go, thoroughly impressed. It seems the infamous Black Reaper is far more formidable than the stories portray. She concludes that you can never judge a book by its cover. After a short journey, they finally arrive at their destination. She surveys the deceptively small village, questioning if a boss could truly be here. He answers with absolute certainty, assuring her they will find it easily upon entering. He reinforces the plan, reminding her they will soon face an onslaught of orcs funneled directly to them by the shaman. He knows this entire setup is a meticulously crafted trap designed to ensnare players. It was identical in his past life. He recalls the grim truth. Just behind the village, a gruesome mountain of fallen players lies concealed by the shaman's dark magic. This grim discovery is a testament to the orc shaman's clever and diabolical nature. Yet he reflects that it also exposes the creature as a coward. It lacks the confidence for a direct confrontation. With that grim assessment made, he motions for her to move forward with him, but she hesitates, noting the complete absence of orcs. He simply explains that the entire village is a carefully constructed illusion, a distraction for players. He reveals that the shaman is the sole inhabitant of this village, gesturing with his scythe, and warning that the true monster lurks within that house. The entire setup, he explains with grim certainty, is an elaborate trap designed to ensnare anyone who dares to approach. The moment a player enters the house and steps upon the trigger, the shaman will instantly summon a horde of orcs. The number of summoned orcs ranges between 10 and 20, a force more than capable of shattering the will of any player. A shadow of worry crosses Julie's face as she asks what they could possibly do, admitting the challenge seems overwhelming. Ryuman concedes that it is difficult, but assures her there is a way, leaning in close to whisper the details of his plan. His proximity brings a blush to her cheeks, and after listening, she asks with wide eyes if he is actually serious. Doubting if a monster would fall for such a ploy, she is reassured by Ryuman, who tells her not to worry, as he has tested this method before. His confidence becomes hers, and she declares she will do it, prompting him to ask if she is certain about going in alone. Julie, known by the peculiar in-game nickname Democracy, affirms her decision. She says yes, expressing her unease, that he always takes on the heaviest burdens and that they should not have to do everything together. Wanting to handle things her own way for once, she surprises Ryuman, who considers her determination and agrees to her proposal. He promises to wait outside as she steels her resolve, takes a deep breath, and begins her walk toward the foreboding door. Upon opening it, she is met with a vast, dark corridor, but the intimidating sight fails to diminish her courage. She ventures forward into the gloom until her eyes land on a striking red carpet laid out in the path ahead. She instantly recognizes it as the trap the Black Reaper had described, realizing she must now proceed with utmost caution. She recalls his warning before she entered. The orc shaman lies in wait, concealed somewhere within the structure. His instructions were clear: she would find a red carpet, and the very moment she stepped on it was the trigger. The shaman would then summon the orcs and the exit would be sealed, so her next move near the carpet was critical. The plan required her to feign retreat back to the entrance, luring the shaman into sending a few scouts to investigate the disturbance. She steels her resolve. Realizing the path forward is surprisingly clear, she knows exactly what must be done. Her task is a simple feint: draw their attention, then vanish. With cautious steps, she moves toward the danger zone. Just as she draws near, a suffocating presence erupts from within the hall. A wave of palpable power that stops her cold. She instantly identifies the source, the orc shaman. The monster's gaze is now fixed upon her. She has been noticed. Panic ignites. She spins around and flees, slamming the heavy door behind her before finally allowing herself a shaky breath of relief. Her heart hammers against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of terror. Aiden's voice cuts through her fear, asking if she's all right, to which she manages a breathless yes. Having followed his instructions to the letter, she now questions the plan. Will the shaman truly send its scouts after me? She asks, a tremor of doubt in her voice. Aiden's response is cryptic and calm. We'll know soon enough, he assures her just moments later. As if on cue, the heavy door creaks open. A group of orcs emerges, their eyes scanning the desolate surroundings. Suddenly, one of them glances back. It's a fatal mistake. They are met by a blur of motion as Aiden is already upon them, his blade a silver arc that cripples the entire scouting party in an instant. With the orcs neutralized on the ground, their limbs rendered useless, he signals to his partner, Julie, get clear, now. She doesn't hesitate. A short time later, Julie's voice confirms the grim task is complete. None of the scouts remain. Aiden offers a word of praise for her efficiency. Good work, he says, a hint of a smile in his voice. Now, we do it all over again. Her previous anxiety returns. Are you certain? She presses. Will a creature that powerful truly fall for the same ruse a second time? He concedes the point with a chuckle. The shaman is clever, I'll give it that, but its memory is about as long as a goldfish's. He offers a reassuring smile. Don't worry, his confidence is infectious. Julie's own resolve hardens as she replies, all right. And so, the cycle of luring and eliminating continues. After what feels like an eternity of battle, Julie reports the final count. That's the last of them, a total of 300. Aiden notes the time with satisfaction. Their work took merely 1 hour. Overwhelmed with emotion, she can't stop thanking him. I never thought. This was incredible. Because of you, I could hunt efficiently and without fear. Pivoting to their progress, he asks for her status. What level did you reach? Her reply is filled with astonishment. I'm already level 19. Aiden considers this excellent progress, revealing the next crucial piece of information. Perfect. One more level, and your entire rank will ascend. He decides to push her just one more time. She must reach level 20, where he knows entirely new abilities await her. Moreover, her existing skills would be greatly amplified, a strategic advantage that would make her an indispensable asset to his team. He also realizes he must enhance her support magic to shatter new records on their path to confronting the final boss. With this resolve, he turns to her, vowing his complete support until she finally ascends to level 20. He explains that their subsequent battles with the Orcs will be significantly easier. Julie, however, is utterly stunned by his unexpected focus on her. She begins to voice her gratitude, but her words are cut short as a group materializes behind them, instantly drawing their attention. One of them whispers in awe, "That's the Black Reaper," while his companion stares blankly, having no clue who this legendary figure is. Their shock, however, is reserved for the staggering number of orc corpses carpeting the ground. One of them hesitantly steps forward. He stammers that they only intended to hunt a few orcs, completely unaware that others were already clearing the area. But as his eyes scan the battlefield, he's gripped by disbelief, finding it impossible that a mere 2 people could cause such utter annihilation. 2 other players murmur to each other, finding the sheer concentration of orcs in such a small village to be highly suspicious. They also wonder about the woman standing beside the Reaper, debating whether she could truly be his partner. Another player finds the situation peculiar, as he cannot imagine the notoriously solitary Black Reaper ever collaborating with a team. Yet another player's gaze lingers on the girl with a wry smile, amusingly concluding that she must be the Reaper's type. At that moment, his thoughts drift to less than honorable places, as his eyes scan her figure with a predatory intent. The Reaper slams his scythe into the ground, the sharp sound echoing as he orders them to leave, declaring they are in his way. The group recoils, intimidated by his aggression, demanding an explanation, completely unaware that he has just peered into their minds. He internally concedes that they can think what they wish, but their latest thoughts had trespassed far beyond an acceptable line. Thus, he commands them to disappear unless they have legitimate business here. They bristle at his tone, questioning his harsh words. They accuse him of being incredibly rude, while Julie watches on, frozen in disbelief at the sudden and intense confrontation. They must be utterly mad to challenge the infamous Black Reaper. With a flick of his wrist, Ryomen brandishes his scythe, his voice cutting through the tension. "Who wants to be first?" One of the challengers, consumed by rage, bellows a defiant cry, only to trail off in horror as he feels a thin trickle of red snake down his forehead, a wound inflicted so swiftly he never even felt the blade. In an instant, their bravado shatters. A wave of panic washes over them as they scramble away, stammering apologies and vowing never to interfere again. But as they flee, their fear gives way to bitter resentment. They resolve not to let this humiliation stand, deciding to conceal themselves and discover what the Reaper is truly up to. A smirk plays on our protagonist's lips. He finds their pathetic attempt at stealth amusing. It's painfully obvious that the cowards would do nothing more than watch from the shadows. He doesn't consider them a genuine threat. In his eyes, weaklings like them could never truly stand in his way. However, there's a nagging possibility they might try to snatch the final kill on the boss. To secure his reward, he knows he must end this swiftly. He also remembers his other objective, helping Julie reach level 20. Meanwhile, the group of troublemakers finally halts, believing they've reached a safe distance. Now concealed by the distance, one of them turns to their leader, whispering, "So, what's the plan?" The leader's eyes narrow with contempt. "I want to know what that damned Reaper is plotting," he snarls. A heavier-set member of the group nods in agreement. "I'm curious too. An army of orcs like that doesn't just appear from nowhere." He then asks, "Should we get closer and spy on them?" And another player quickly chimes in. "We won't get caught if we just keep our distance," he assures them. With their new objective set, they begin to creep forward. They find a vantage point overlooking the orc village. Just as they settle in, the door to the largest hut creaks open, and a horde of monsters spills out. Their monstrous eyes lock on to the lone human figure standing before them. Instantly, a formidable line of hulking orcs assembles, pouring out from the dwelling. Our protagonist wastes no time. He lunges forward, driving his fist deep into the lead monster's gut with staggering force. The impact sends the creature flying backward like a cannonball, crashing into its comrades and scattering them like bowling pins. He follows up immediately, his scythe becoming a blur of dark steel. In a whirlwind of motion, he carves through the stunned orcs, severing limbs with terrifying grace. The few orcs left standing are paralyzed with fear, a terror that is mirrored in the eyes of the spying gang, who watch the massacre unfold from their hiding spot. Now they understand. Now they see with chilling clarity why the Black Reaper holds the #1 rank. It is a title he has more than earned, for it took all their strength to fell a single one, and now they were watching an absolute slaughter. They then observed the girl advancing towards the monsters, perplexed as to why the warrior hadn't delivered the final blows himself. Julie then began methodically dispatching them one by one, as the creatures were left completely defenseless. The group's confusion finally cleared, as they understood the dynamic. The Black Reaper was paving the way for the girl. He was merely incapacitating the monsters, allowing her to finish them. They struggled to comprehend his motive in this arrangement. They couldn't imagine what the girl offered to warrant such assistance, allowing her to claim so many kills effortlessly. A bitter jealousy began to fester within them, watching her live a life of such ease as she entered the house, inflaming their outrage. It was a stark contrast to their own grueling efforts for every single kill, while it seemed her victories were served on a silver platter. They watched her exit the building and sensed something was amiss. The leader noticed a fresh wave of monsters emerging in the main character's direction. He pieced it together, realizing that every time the woman went into the house, a new group of orcs would spill out after her. The main character relentlessly severed the monster's limbs, his movements a constant, brutal dance, leaving the distant gang to wonder. How could so many creatures pour from a single building? They started to theorize that perhaps this was a spawn point, the very place the orcs were created. It dawned on them with chilling clarity. This was why the Reaper had so forcefully warned them to vacate the area. Still observing from a safe distance, they debated whether they should wait for the pair to leave. If they did, they could claim the valuable location for themselves. One of them eagerly agreed, admitting he had wanted to do so from the start. But he reluctantly admitted they were nowhere near strong enough to challenge the Reaper in a direct confrontation. At that moment, Julie looked at her system with a bright smile. She joyfully announced that she had finally reached level 20. The main character congratulated her, and she excitedly added that she had more news. She had not only acquired a new skill, but the power of her blessing had also increased from 50 to 60%. Ryuman remarked that it was impressive, and asked if she could demonstrate the skill. She replied that she would do it immediately, raising her hand. She activated the ability, and as a powerful aura formed around them, it boosted all of their attributes by 60%. A countdown materialized in his mind. The blessing had a remaining duration of 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. She clarified that her blessing skill had been improved and was about to demonstrate the new buff she had mastered. A radiant aura began to drift toward Ryder, eventually enveloping his entire form in a shimmering light. He felt an incredible surge of power as his attack and movement speed were amplified by 60%, a direct result of the agility skill's effect. The enhancement would last for 29 minutes and 59 seconds, prompting Ryder to remark that the skill was truly exceptional. She added that she could cast it every 30 minutes, and he expressed his sincere gratitude. But, she countered, saying she was the one who was truly grateful for his aid. He started moving with purpose, declaring his intent to defeat the shaman. Now that they no longer needed to concern themselves with lesser orcs, she asked if there was any way she could assist him. Ryder's response was simple: just stay out of the way. As he spoke, he detected a faint movement at the edge of his vision. He spotted them, the cowards hiding in the shadows, undoubtedly spewing insults about the two of them. The thought sparked a flicker of annoyance, and he decided to test a new theory. The area fell deathly quiet as Julia remained in her hiding spot. The group of troublemakers began to wonder aloud if the infamous Black Reaper had already breached the shaman's dwelling. In that instant, 2 precise cuts sliced through the door from the inside, and he burst forth in a shower of splintered wood. He completely obliterated the entrance, with a horde of countless orcs pouring out in pursuit as he continued his sprint. His objective was to lead the frenzied orcs directly into the laps of those fools. Julia, watching from afar, was completely baffled. She couldn't understand why Ryder was suddenly running, as it was a stark contrast to their previous head-on approach. The group of onlookers was equally confused, questioning why the orcs were so fixated on chasing the Black Reaper. And more puzzling, why was he fleeing from the monsters at all? At that very moment, another, more formidable orc appeared. It was the orc shaman, its magical scepter emanating a sinister aura as it unleashed a bolt of dark energy directly at Ryder. He deftly evaded the attack, but the spell's lingering power caused new orcs to claw their way up from the earth before anyone could react. Just then, 5 more orcs materialized before him, causing the portly player to flinch in terror. He stammered, pointing out how one creature dwarfed the others, questioning if its immense size marked it as their leader. The tribe chief, another player murmured, the realization dawning on him as he connected the dots. He deduced that the formidable orc must have been summoning the others, a thought that sent a tremor of fear through Julie. With the Black Reaper now completely surrounded by the horde, she felt a wave of helplessness, torn between her desire to help and the futility of the act. Her expression, however, shifted to one of sheer awe as she watched him fight, his demeanor betraying no hint of pressure or fear. He moved as if this were a simple exercise, even as dozens of orcs continued to flood the battlefield. The portly player's anxiety spiked as the number of monsters swelled, the true gravity of the Reaper's predicament finally sinking in. Yet, the Reaper weaved through every assault with an impossible grace, leaving the onlookers completely baffled as to how any player could possess such agility. Their group leader broke the silence, his eyes gleaming. Stay sharp. It seems the area boss has made its grand entrance. Despite the powerful monster being on the defensive, a malicious smile crept across the leader's face. He posed a question to his party, his voice laced with avarice. What do you say we relieve him of that prize? The proposal was met with nervous hesitation. They feared the Black Reaper's inevitable wrath, but their leader dismissed their concerns with a wave of his hand. He assured them that the Reaper was far too preoccupied, claiming it was impossible to fend off so many creatures without immense difficulty. Buoyed by his confidence, two others quickly agreed, adding that if the Reaper confronted them for stealing the boss, they could simply feign innocence and claim they were only trying to assist. As consensus was reached, they crept forward, while the Reaper held the line. They used the chaos as cover to sneak into the encampment, a movement that did not escape Julie's watchful eyes as she questioned their motives. Panic seized her as she understood their goal was to usurp the shaman, and she frantically wondered if the Reaper could even see the betrayal unfolding. This desperate moment transported her back to their time in the forest, recalling a moment when she had thanked him for all his help. She remembered confessing her fear of being a burden, and he had simply replied that it was no issue, as he had already completed his main objective. Her confusion was palpable, prompting him to clarify that his true focus had shifted to a secondary objective. He explained that after triumphing over the formidable boss known as the warrior orc, he had already secured sufficient fragments. With confidence, he assured her not to worry, certain that the remaining fragments could be claimed from another powerful adversary. Despite his assurances, her gaze shifted to the approaching party, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. Her heart pounded. She knew the Black Reaper required that specific shaman for his quest, and if this interference continued, the rival group would surely snatch him away. She moved into a supportive stance just as the others coiled to strike. But in that precise instant, the Night of the Dead ability flared to life, unleashing an oppressive curtain of black smoke that engulfed the area. The sudden darkness left both her and the rival party paralyzed with fear, utterly bewildered by its mysterious origin. Instinctively, every head tilted upwards, their eyes searching the unnatural gloom for an explanation they could not find. The silence was shattered when one of them dared to speak, only to have a hand clamp over his mouth, a frantic warning that they were far too close. But it was a moment too late. A wave of terror washed over them as they realized the shaman had already noticed their presence. Its gaze was a thing of nightmares, and with that chilling realization, a single, desperate shout to run pierced the air. The shaman, however, wasted not a single second, casting a spell that summoned a legion of orcs to erupt from the ground, completely encircling them. The monstrous horde descended without hesitation, a blur of violence as the first adventurer was struck down, signaling a brutal assault on all the others. It was a complete and utter massacre. Amidst the chaos, one survivor trembled on the blood-soaked ground, utterly broken. He looked up just in time to see a colossal shadow descending upon him, his life extinguished in an instant. In the aftermath, the Black Reaper moved like a phantom, systematically eliminating the rampaging monster and every other creature present. He allowed himself a single, deep breath, his gaze sweeping to the side to impassively observe the orcs finishing their slaughter. He reflected on his strategy. He had deliberately lured the orc shaman from its sanctuary simply to gauge what this foolish group would do. Surveying the carnage on the ground, he admitted to himself a grim disbelief that they had actually tried to steal his boss, and declares that the outcome was a foregone conclusion. Besides, he feels no guilt. After all, they were all preoccupied with spying on each other rather than focusing on their primary objective. The monsters sense his approach and charge with feral intensity, only to be cleaved apart as if they were nothing. The slaughter continues until none remain, all felled by the sweeping arc of his powerful scythe. A thrill runs through him as he feels his attack speed surge. He recognizes this newfound quickness as a combination of Julie's blessing and the 50% bonus granted by his rune. The rune's effect doubles his scythe's damage, and under the cover of darkness, his attack speed skyrockets by more than 50%. Moreover, standing motionless at night dramatically lowers his chances of being detected by any nearby enemies. He then leaps forward, launching an all-out assault against the orc shaman. The hulking boss swings wildly to crush him, but he effortlessly evades, hooking the monster's head with the curve of his scythe as the shaman desperately tries to glance away. With an ice-cold expression, our hero makes a single, fluid motion, severing his target's head with chilling ease. With that final strike, the boss is vanquished, and a notification announces his victory. 33.73% experience and 4,000 gold gained. The influx of rewards immediately pushes him to the next level. He also loots the Orb of Eternal Rest, and a mysterious wooden totem, a low-quality blue monostone, and, most importantly, the Stone of Balance are added to his inventory. Now holding 2 of the 4 required items for his side mission, he feels a deep satisfaction, having reached level 33 and acquired a haul of new gear. He examines the Orb of Eternal Rest, an epic quality necklace. Its effect is potent. It gains 1 stack per monster defeated, but loses 1 durability for every 100 stacks, which then convert into a single attribute point. He muses on the item's power, granting attribute points for every 100 foes slain, a principle remarkably similar to the Absorption Rune, a power once wielded by the formidable Black Flame Dragon. Yet, he immediately identifies a critical flaw. As the necklace accumulates power, its durability wears away, eventually breaking when it reaches 0. However, he was confident, knowing a durability rune awaited him around the 8th round, the key to restoring his necklace's full power through a blacksmith skill. This would allow him to reclaim a substantial number of attribute points. In that very moment, Julie's voice cut through the air as she passed nearby, calling his name. He was surprised to hear her but not see her, a phenomenon he knew was caused by his enveloping death aura. This potent ability effectively rendered him invisible in the darkness of night, so long as he remained motionless. His gaze shifted to the bodies strewn across the ground, and he resolved to eliminate all traces before his macabre power began to wane. Only after his work was done did he deactivate the ability, causing the girl to jump as the world was suddenly plunged into an unnatural darkness. Then, just as abruptly, the darkness vanished, leaving her utterly bewildered until her eyes fell upon him standing to the side. She rushed to him, explaining that she'd been searching for him, before asking if he had accomplished his goal. She then questioned if he'd seen anyone else in the camp, mentioning that she thought some people were secretly trying to take down the boss. He simply replied no and asked where she had seen them, leaving her visibly confused. She insisted she could have sworn she saw figures and heard screams, a chilling experience that left her unsettled and wondering if she was seeing ghosts. He cut her off, calling her name, and stating that they needed to pursue another boss. After some time, they arrived at a new orc encampment, where the archers were swiftly dispatched, revealing this group's leader, a formidable orc archer. The creature fired a relentless barrage of arrows at the Black Reaper, who closed the distance with blinding speed, preparing for a decisive strike. With a single, precise movement, he severed one of the monster's arms before cleaving its entire body in two, ending its life before it could even register what had happened. As it collapsed in 2 pieces upon the ground, a notification confirmed the orc archer's defeat, granting him 37.73% experience. The reward also included 4,000 gold, and the dropped items this time were a pair of agile archer's boots. Accompanying them were a rusty arrowhead, a low-quality green Mona stone, and a stone of balance. His side mission progress now stood at 3 out of 4 complete, so he decided it was time to examine the descriptions of his newly acquired items. He started with the agile archer's boots, immediately noticing they were of a remarkable epic quality. They grant a formidable 60 points of defense and boost agility by 10. With a durability of 1,000, he immediately recognizes their superiority. His current boots, of mere normal quality, paled in comparison, offering only 15 defense, 4 agility, and a 5% movement speed bonus. The choice was obvious. It was time for a significant upgrade. Accessing his system interface, he knew the next step was to enhance the item with the green crystal he had acquired. He initiated the combination sequence, and with a flash of light, the item and the crystal successfully merged into one. The agile archer's boots now possessed a new enchantment, a bonus of +4 to agility. A smile of deep satisfaction spread across his face. With 3 of the 4 major bosses now vanquished, our hero paused, his thoughts turning to the final confrontation. All that remained was to defeat the true orc and claim the last fragment, a foe he knew was fundamentally different from the others. This battle was a race against time. A strict limit demanded he eliminate the creature with the utmost speed. He understood that the faster he triumphed, the greater the rewards would be. His current personal best stood at a swift 43 seconds. Declaring himself ready, he saw her encouraging smile and felt a surge of confidence. This time, he was certain he would shatter his own record. With her support, he aimed for a time far shorter than any before, but he knew that leveling up was the immediate priority. He also planned to use the Eternal Rest Pearl to amplify his attributes before turning his focus back to dispatching more monsters. A glance at the timer revealed 30 minutes and 41 seconds remaining in the round. He carved through as many orcs as he could before sheathing his scythe, confident he had gathered what he needed. Even though the threshold of level 40 was tantalizingly close, the ticking clock affirmed there was simply no time left for that final push. A wave of relief washed over him, however, as he had achieved his main objective, earning 9 precious attribute points. As his item's durability also increased by 1, Julie approached him, her gaze steady. "Are you finished hunting?" she asked, her voice soft. "Will you go after the last boss now?" He nodded, but his expression turned serious. "Yes, but this is where we part ways." He acknowledged the exhaustion she must feel from keeping pace with him. She met his gaze and asked quietly, "Is this the end, then?" A wave of sorrow washes over her as she wonders, just for a moment, if she should ask to join him on his final journey. But she pushes the thought aside, convinced she would only be a hindrance and that it's far better to part ways now. Aiden, sensing her inner turmoil with his mind reading, realizes just how attached she's become. Yet, he silently agrees with her conclusion. Facing the true orc together is a risk he's unwilling to take. His primary concern is keeping her from harm. Julie, accepting this, offers her final farewell. She offers to bless him with her enhancement spell one last time, and as the magic flows, she thanks him for his unwavering support. She admits that if she had been forced to face everything by herself, the struggle would have been insurmountable. She then opens her inventory, presenting an item she acquired earlier, confessing she isn't even sure if it has any use. Her one desire is for him to have it. Aiden tells her it isn't necessary, but she gently insists. The sheer amount of experience she gained at his side was more than enough payment. Besides, she recalls acquiring 2 of the item. It felt right to give at least one to Aiden. A warm feeling spreads through him as he reads her innocent thoughts. She is trying to help him, completely unaware that Aiden and the fearsome Black Reaper are the very same person. He couldn't let her feel indebted to his other identity, so he accepts the item, assuring her that her enhancements were invaluable. With that, he declares them even, and without another word, he turns to leave. He promises to keep the item safe, and that their paths will cross again. She can only watch in silence, rooted to the spot. Words escape her as his figure recedes into the distance. Activating his directional ability, Aiden's focus shifts. He moves with incredible speed until a notification confirms his target's location. The superior orc is 1,121 meters from his position. A palpable sense of relief washes over him. It seems no other player has managed to take down this boss. He reflects that this must be the case for the other major bosses as well, as no victory announcements had been made. No one has managed to defeat them. Still, he is keenly aware that of the 4 bosses that have appeared, his is but one of many threats. This superior orc was on a completely different level of power, so immense that the other 3 bosses felt like insignificant ants in comparison. He theorized that if a coordinated force of about 100 level 20 players were to attack all at once, they might possess a sliver of a chance, though he knew such a gathering was practically impossible. He also recalled the harsh lessons of his past, having perished 4 times in his relentless attempts to conquer this very beast. His personal record for the kill was a swift 43 seconds. Now, just 321 meters away, he pushed his speed even further. A wave of confidence washed over him, certain he would shatter his previous time, as he closed the final distance to the superior orc. That confidence evaporated into cold dread, for the colossal boss was already clutching a struggling player in its massive fist. A desperate battle raged below, where several players were being systematically and brutally eliminated one after another. One of the warriors was trembling uncontrollably on the ground, his mind struggling to process the sheer scale of the titanic monster before him. Just minutes before this carnage, his entire party had gathered, and he had warned them of a large concentration of orcs. He had stressed the need for them all to stick together, introducing himself as a level 12 warrior. The blonde archer had then introduced himself, stating his nickname was Brad Pitt, and that he was also a level 12 archer. Another party member, a level 12 martial artist, chimed in with the unusual nickname, Booby Big. They all recognized the importance of cooperation, especially for a group that had only recently come together. Their synergy was surprisingly potent. They readied themselves as the warrior charged forward to draw the first wave of orcs. He was certain that with their seamless coordination, obliterating an entire orc village wouldn't pose a significant challenge. The female mage in their group immobilized several monsters with crowd control, while the rest of the team managed the attack vectors. They battled relentlessly, holding their ground against the horde for 6 grueling hours. A cheer went up through the group as they confirmed the kill count, 300 orcs for their main mission. Ethan, noticing their high morale, posed the question of whether they wanted to continue the hunt. The blonde archer enthusiastically agreed, eager to reach level 20. And so, their relentless hunt continued, the party working as one until they finally broke through to level 20. Beyond this milestone, their rank ascended to regular, activating the coveted combined function within their system. A wave of triumph washed over them. Not only had they reached level 20, but they had also unlocked powerful new skills. Brady Pitt voiced his amazement at their newfound power, questioning if dispatching orcs had always been this effortless. The girl beside him agreed, finding it hard to believe these were the same monsters that once gave them so much trouble. In that moment of reflection, the warrior's urgent cry snapped their attention forward, revealing a new, terrifying sight. An orc stood before them, dozens of times larger than any they had ever encountered, its sheer scale leaving them utterly stunned. Whispers turned to questions, as they wondered if they were staring at a true boss. The woman's voice tinged with excitement as she assessed their chances. She believed that the 5 of them were more than a match for it, a sentiment that ignited the group's spirit, and they quickly agreed to divide the spoils equally. As they planned their attack on the monstrous creature, the superior orc, which had been lumbering along calmly, suddenly stopped. It turned its massive head, its gaze locking onto their small party with chilling intent. A soul-shattering roar erupted from its throat, a wave of pure terror that froze every player where they stood as the beast launched itself towards them. The ground trembled as it landed, and with horrifying speed, it raised a hand and cut the girl down in a single, merciless strike. She had no chance to react. The creature then turned its gaze, and another player was crushed instantly, powerless against the onslaught. All the archer could do was tremble in abject fear as the superior orc's hand closed around his own, squeezing with immense force. The sickening crack of his bones echoed as the warrior watched, his mind paralyzed by the horrifying scene unfolding before him. He could only think that death had arrived as the boss's powerful tail whipped out, ensnaring the martial artist. The captured man's desperate screams for help were cut short as he was brutally slammed against the unyielding ground. Now, the superior orc's cold, merciless eyes settled on the warrior, the last one standing, who was utterly consumed by horror. The only thought that could pierce his fear was the absolute certainty that his life was about to end as the monstrous boss stalked ever closer. Drawing near, he raises his weapon, poised to deliver the decisive strike. In that very instant, Raymond materializes from the sky, and with a single, flawless cut, he severs one of the creature's heads. The brutal act incites a roar of confusion from the remaining head, bewildered by the sudden turn of events. But its confusion is short-lived. The scythe finds its mark once more, and the monster's massive body collapses lifelessly to the earth. Ethan struggles to process the scene before him, his mind racing with the unbelievable question, could this truly be the legendary Black Reaper? With the boss vanquished, Aiden is left in awe, never imagining the superior orc could be felled with just one powerful blow. A notification from the system chimes, confirming his victory over the superior orc and announcing his ascension to level 40. His rank simultaneously climbed from regular to expert, unlocking the long-awaited trade function. Eagerly, he begins to inspect the new abilities unlocked at his level, starting with the ominous Mark of Death. This powerful mark had boosted his damage bonus from 120% to an incredible 140%, and the range of his Death Knight skill had expanded from 500 meters to a full 1,000 meters. He had also acquired an exclusive Reaper skill, the Moonlight Slash. With the next ability set to unlock at level 60, a wave of satisfaction washes over him. He has finally obtained the Reaper's soul-ranged attack, a game-changing addition to his arsenal. He examines the Moonlight Slash, an ability that requires a mere 1-second charge. It then unleashes 12% area damage in a wide cone, a hybrid assault that is half physical and half magical, multiplied by 1.5 when wielded under the night sky. The skill is governed by a 10-minute cooldown period. Furthermore, it can only be activated while wielding a scythe. He immediately recognizes how different it is from his other offensive skills. Those abilities often forced him into perilous, close-quarters combat. The Moonlight Slash, however, was a different beast entirely. Its wide area of effect makes landing a hit almost effortless, a near-guaranteed strike against his foes. He's also intrigued by its adaptive nature, a skill that seamlessly blends both physical and magical damage. This meant that even if he faced a target impervious to physical attacks, he could still deliver a finishing blow with its potent magical energy. A faint smile touched Ethan's lips. While he knew only low-level creatures populated this floor for now, he understood this new skill was an investment for the future, for the day he would confront horrors that made this superior orc seem trivial. Pushing those thoughts aside, he turned his attention to the cascade of reward notifications that began to materialize before him. The system announced his acquisitions, the Superior Orc's Gauntlets, and the razor-sharp Superior Orc's Fang. Following them were a low-quality purple mana stone and, crucially, the Balance Stone, the final piece needed to complete his side quest. For his efforts, he was granted the Balance Rune. It became clear to him that this powerful rune was the true prize of the entire trial. The rune materialized and painlessly engraved itself onto his very being, a permanent mark of power known as the Balance Rune. Its description was deceptively simple. If the gap between his lowest and highest pure attribute was 10 or less, all of his attributes would be doubled. The effect, however, applied only to attributes that were increased by pure attribute points. Ethan considered its focus on the 4 core stats: strength, intelligence, agility, and luck. He recalled the precise distribution he had meticulously planned. He had allocated 27 points to strength, 18 to intelligence, 26 to agility, and 28 to luck. It was a calculated risk, a careful distribution of his pure attributes made in anticipation of this very moment, this very rune. Now, with a surge of excitement, he was desperate to witness the results of his foresight, eagerly summoning his status window. His eyes widened in disbelief. His strength had skyrocketed to 374, intelligence to a staggering 614, agility to 518, and luck to 374. He was utterly stunned, struggling to comprehend if the rune had malfunctioned. Every single one of his attributes had surged past the 300 mark. His mind reeled. He knew the rune was responsible, yet the sheer magnitude of the increase dwarfed every expectation he ever had. He concluded that for sheer power enhancement, nothing could compare to the balance rune. Shaking off his awe, he decided to check his other gains. A new notification flashed. He had vanquished the superior orc of the 5th round in a single second, qualifying him for the time attack bonus. As a result, he would be awarded additional gold. The system confirmed it would be the maximum possible sum, a total of 100,000. 100,000 gold for felling the boss in under 10 seconds. A wave of satisfaction washes over Aiden. He recalls his last attempt yielding a mere 23,000 for a 43-second victory. With this substantial new fortune, he can finally acquire all the fundamental skills that have eluded him. A system notification chimes, announcing he has shattered the world record. His monumental achievement will be immortalized within the legendary Akashic records. But there's more. He's also been granted a unique item selection ticket as a special reward. A flicker of disbelief crosses his face. He struggles to process the sudden turn of events. He wonders, could it be true? A reward of this magnitude, simply for setting a new benchmark? A bead of sweat traces a path down his temple. The words echo in his mind. A unique item selection ticket. His imagination ignites with the sheer, boundless possibility. Could he truly choose from anything in existence? Without a moment's hesitation, he activates the ticket from his inventory, and the system interface materializes, presenting a dazzling array of options. The categories are laid out before him: weapon, shield, helmet, armor, boots, gloves, necklace, and ring. The breathtaking reality sinks in. His choice is absolute. He instantly dismisses the weapon category, as his current scythe serves him well, and a more powerful one awaits him upon his return. With that decided, his focus shifts, and he selects the helmet. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the arena, the warrior, Owen, watches Aiden from afar, his mind reeling in absolute shock, having just witnessed a single player annihilate the colossal monster. A single, decisive blow. He struggles to comprehend it. Is the one they call the Black Reaper truly this powerful? He accomplished alone what a full party of 5 level 20 adventurers could not even hope to achieve. But then, a new thought cuts through his awe. He should be filled with gratitude, not just disbelief, for the man who just saved his life. In that very moment, Aiden's gaze flicks to the side, and he registers the warrior's presence for the first time. But his time is up. He turns abruptly to depart. Owen remains frozen, unable to utter a single word. He can only watch as his savior vanishes, lamenting that time expired before he could even offer a proper greeting. As the trial concludes, the survivors rematerialize before the angelic Priscilla, who calmly asks if they have all finished their task. Her gaze sweeps over the decimated ranks, a flicker of contemplation in her eyes as she wonders how so many could have perished in a mere 10 hours. She ponders their fate. Was it the horde of simple orcs that claimed them, or did their own desperation turn them against one another? Setting her thoughts aside, she announces her intent to review the results, her voice echoing, "In first place is the Black Reaper, at level 40. He completed the primary objective in just 1 hour," she continues. "In second place, we have the Reckless Fools, reaching level 20. They finished their task in 2.5 hours. Claiming the third position is the Celestial Demon. He concluded at level 24, completing the mission in a time of 2 hours and 47 minutes. A wave of stunned disbelief washes over the players. Level 40? It seemed an impossible height, and they began to question if one person could truly defeat 300 orcs, and to accomplish it in only an hour. Hearing the whispers, our protagonist lets out a quiet breath, his only wish to claim his reward and escape the burgeoning attention. A notification floods his vision. The system congratulates him not only for securing first place in his designated zone, but for dominating the rankings across all zones. For this regional victory, he is awarded an intermediate-grade epic necklace, a worthy prize for his unparalleled performance. But for his absolute supremacy over all other zones, a special reward box materializes, alongside a confirmation of his ultimate achievement: first place in all 5 preliminary rounds. This unprecedented feat unlocks a monumental achievement, bestowing upon him the title, the one who stands ahead of all. A faint smile plays on his lips. This was the true prize. The condition was to be number 1 across all zones for the first 5 rounds, and its effect was beyond compare. All experience he gained would now be permanently increased by a staggering 1.5 times. He thinks back on the grueling effort, on every risk he took to secure that first-place position in every single round. It was all for this singular purpose, for this title. He could not afford to miss the chance to grow 1.5 times faster than any potential rival. With the ultimate prize now his, a deep sense of satisfaction washes over him, and he finally decides to inspect his other spoils of war. The system's interface shifts, informing him that his epic necklace is not predetermined. He may choose one from a curated selection. Before him, 3 options appear: the necklace of the skeleton knight, the javelin necklace, and the necklace of primal strength. He knew that any ordinary player would be instinctively drawn to the more conspicuous necklace, but his past life's experience had taught him better. He knew that the unassuming Java necklace was the only prize he truly needed. This was an epic-grade artifact, one that increased all attributes by 3, and resistance by a staggering 35%, with a durability of 1000. While the necklace didn't offer a direct boost to raw strength or other core attributes, its true value lay in that remarkably high resistance. After all, items providing such a substantial defense were notoriously expensive, a prime asset he could liquidate when it was no longer required. With that settled, he turned to the other special reward. The first option was a triple experience bonus for the 6th round only, while the second offered 6,000 gold. The final choice was crucial information about the upcoming 6th round. The decision was simple. He didn't hesitate for a second, knowing the experience buff was absolutely essential for the trials that lay ahead. At that moment, a sharp clap echoed as the angel commanded everyone's attention. She asked if they had all seen their final placements, then offered congratulations to the 1,585 souls who had successfully completed the main mission. Then, with the same malevolent glint in her eyes, she bid a final, chilling farewell to the 1,211 players whose low rankings had sealed their fate. Cries for mercy filled the air as they faded from existence, but their pleas were useless. Only oblivion awaited them. Priscilla watched the grim spectacle with a satisfied smirk, contemptuously thinking that these humans were nothing but worms for pleading for their pathetic lives. Our hero, however, found a dark irony in the scene, thinking to himself that this so-called angel was just as much of a worm as any of them. She scanned the final statistics for the round, a flicker of genuine surprise crossing her face, never having imagined that anyone would actually complete the side mission. Her gaze swept across the survivors until it landed on the one responsible, and she realized with growing disbelief that once again, it was him. Shaking off the brief astonishment, she delivered a curt goodbye to everyone remaining. She instructed them to rest until the next trial began, officially bringing the harrowing 5th round to a close. Across all zones, a total of 19 million survivors remained. In the zone our hero occupied, there were 1,211. As the game world dissolved, he found himself back in his apartment, reunited with his brother. The moment had arrived. With a determined glint in his eye, he summoned the fusion window, ready to act on the plan he had been carefully formulating. Into the arcane matrix, he placed his most potent ingredients, the Reaper's Scythe, humming with dark energy, followed by the pulsating Orc's heart and the ancient mystical wooden totem. He added the final catalyst, an arrowhead pried from a formidable boss. A thought crossed his mind. Combining all these rare materials could forge something truly legendary. The outcome could be an epic weapon, perfectly suited for his current level. Then, a crucial memory surfaced: the flawless diamond he had received from Young Min. Adding that priceless gem to the mixture, he surmised, could elevate the result beyond epic, potentially creating a one-of-a-kind weapon of unique rank. With unwavering resolve, he initiated the fusion. A brilliant flash of light consumed the items, and a single, crisp notification confirmed his gamble. Combination successful. Before him materialized a masterpiece of destruction, the Scythe of Death. Just as he had dared to hope, its rarity was designated as unique. Its power was staggering, boasting a damage increase of 300, a boost of 10 to all his attributes, and a 10% amplification to his skill damage. It possessed 3,000 durability. He couldn't suppress a triumphant, almost manic grin. The upgrade was long overdue, leaving his brother utterly bewildered by the sight. Riding the wave of his success, he turned his attention to his skills, contemplating which new abilities would best complement his newfound power. His first choice was strategic, search around, an invaluable skill that would grant him a minimap-like awareness of his immediate surroundings. He followed this by acquiring the dynamic visual acuity boost to sharpen his perception, and then basic resistance for added defense. This fortified him with a 15% resistance to status ailments. Lastly, he learned hand-eye coordination, ensuring a 20% increase in his skill accuracy. Ryuman reflected that he had acquired all the essential general skills and still had 140,000 gold remaining in his coffers. He wisely decided to conserve this fortune, anticipating the arrival of rare epic items set to appear on the market in the coming days. Recognizing he had pushed his limits for now, he decided it was time for a full assessment, opening his status window to survey the fruits of his labor. The display confirmed he was at level 40, now adorned with 4 hidden titles. His attributes had soared, with his strength now at 106, his intelligence registered at a formidable 150, his agility at a nimble 136, and his luck matched his strength at 106. His arsenal now included 8 general skills and 3 exclusive class abilities. Furthermore, he possessed 6 powerful runes, and his rapid progress had already granted him 3 additional unlocked skill slots. The path forward was clear. The next slot would open at level 60, and the final one at level 99. He absorbed the information, understanding that this formidable power was his current state, all amplified by the enigmatic balance rune. Furthermore, if he were to apply the death rune's effect, it would effectively double his attributes. He considered this a clear advantage, recognizing that greater strength was the key to traversing the abyss. Only after that would he put the young man to use for his plan. However, a troubling thought crossed his mind. He reflected on not seeing him during the 5th round, leaving him to wonder if the boy had even survived. Realizing he had entirely forgotten about his pawn, he immediately activated his tracking ability. Knowing the player's name and face was enough, he confirmed a connection could be established for tracking. This meant the person was alive, and a sense of relief washed over him, knowing his asset was still viable. He then decided this would be the final time he utilized the boy in the real world, after which he would be discarded. The next day, Julie sat in a cafe, her thoughts entirely consumed by why Ryuman had asked to see her. In her daydreams, she even pictured him confessing that he had been dying from how much he missed her. A deep blush rose to her cheeks at the thought, a consequence of her incredibly fertile imagination. She took a steadying breath, attempting to calm her racing heart just as the moment arrived. He stepped through the door and, noticing she was already there, approached and asked if she had been waiting long. Still flustered, Julie shook her head, assuring him that she had only arrived a few moments ago herself. She quickly offered to get their drinks, asking for his order and insisting that this time, the bill was on her. Ryuman looked at her with a hint of amusement, asking if she was serious about paying. He told her he would just have an iced Americano with a double shot, and once the drinks arrived, their conversation continued. But Julie could only focus on her own profound embarrassment, wondering if her earlier flights of fancy were to blame. Ryuman caught this from her mind, but, feeling awkward, simply pivoted by asking her thoughts on the 5th round. He then casually wondered if she had crossed paths with the Black Reaper, and she enthusiastically confirmed that she had, and revealed they had even hunted together. She confessed that, at first, she doubted the top-ranked player would ever agree to an alliance, but he accepted the moment she revealed her buff skill. Ryuman remarked that he'd seen it coming, adding that a skill like hers was bound to intrigue. Even a legendary player like the Black Reaper, Julie, filled with gratitude, thanked him, acknowledging that it had all been his idea, because with the Black Reaper's help, she had finally conquered the main mission. She then leaned in, sharing a fascinating tidbit. It was the first time she had ever finished a round in 2nd place. The MC smiled warmly, calling it amazing, and eagerly asking about her reward. Her eyes sparkling with excitement, she materialized the item, an intermediate-grade necklace that enhanced the wearer's speed. She then held it out to the MC, whose face registered pure confusion. She urged him to simply accept it as a gift, insisting she only cleared the round thanks to his insight. But Ryan shook his head, replying that it was far too generous. He argued that she was the one who put in the hard work, but she quickly countered that she barely had to try, passing with incredible ease, all thanks to the Black Reaper. Hearing this, he suggested that, if that were truly the case, then it would be more fitting to give the necklace to the player who had actually assisted her, but Julie simply sighed. She explained that the #1 player in the game would never accept such a modest trinket. The MC told her he truly appreciated the gesture, but admitted the real problem was that he was nowhere near her level. Her eyes widened in surprise. "What level are you?" she asked. He admitted that he was still only level 19, and that it had taken him nearly 10 hours just to clear the Orcs. A wave of sympathy washed over Julie as she returned the necklace to her inventory, her expression somber. She couldn't help but imagine how grueling the game must be for a prophet, a class with no real combat abilities. Trying to lighten the mood, she quickly changed the subject, asking how a prophet even fights. He mumbled that he had a few spells, but seemed hesitant to demonstrate them. She considered his words, realizing with a pang of understanding that a speed necklace would indeed be useless for him. A magic user like him needed to focus on intelligence. A new idea sparked in her mind, and she summoned another item from her inventory. She urges him to accept a curious artifact instead of the necklace, explaining she found it during an orc hunt. And while its purpose remains a mystery to her, she has a strong feeling it will be of great help to him on his journey. His eyes land on the object. He takes it from her palm, his voice low with gratitude. As his hand brushes against hers, a deep blush colors her cheeks, and she insists it's nothing of real value. It's merely a small thank you for the invaluable prophecies he's shared. In response, he promises her a gift that is far more surprising. When he reveals that he's offering intricate details about the 6th round, Julie confesses she would be ecstatic if he shared them. Their conversation shifts to the upcoming trial, and she admits her surprise at what she's learned. It seems she will need to form an alliance with the Black Reaper once more. He reassures her. Certain the top-ranked player wouldn't decline. After all, she proved her immense worth with her support skills during the 5th round. She becomes pensive at his words. She murmurs that she will see him again, her tone unreadable, leaving him to wonder if she views this as a blessing or a curse. Then, Julie confides in him, admitting she found the Reaper to be surprisingly kind, not at all the monster others made him out to be. However, she also acknowledges a certain arrogance in him, though she reasons it's expected from the number 1 ranked player. He is at a loss for words, listening to her candid assessment of his other self. She adds that she also found the Black Reaper incredibly perceptive. It was as if he could read her very thoughts. A shadow of doubt crosses the MC's mind. He knows that ability is a gift from the Mind Rune, a bitter reminder that his own intellect is not so perfect. After all, he had failed 99 times before, though that particular trial had demanded a team of 5. The challenge had been monumental for a solo player. They had stood at the very threshold of the boss room, but the trial's requirement was absolute: 5 players. The system's voice had been clear, barring entry without the full party. He understands, with chilling clarity, that all his previous chances have vanished into thin air. This is the final attempt, and he must exploit it. Whatever the price, a price that now includes bringing Julie into his desperate plan. Seeing his expression turn distant, she gently asks what's on his mind, but he just waves it off, telling her to relax as it's nothing important. Unconvinced, she wonders aloud if he's concerned about the next trial. He admits it's true, confessing he still feels far from powerful enough. Julia comments with a sigh that if they had originated from the same territory, she could have offered him her strength. She laments that after all the ways he has saved her, she feels powerless to repay his kindness. Feeling she isn't of much use to him, a faint smile plays on his lips, for he knows the truth she cannot see. It was her empowering magic that allowed him, as the Black Reaper, to act. It was because of her that he could vanquish the true orc in a single second. Driven by this secret, he tries to lift her spirits. He tells her with conviction that he is certain their paths will cross within the game, causing her to stand up, her eyes bright with renewed hope. She declares that they must both hold on until that moment arrives. He celebrates alongside her, but a cold unease settles deep within him. He can't begin to imagine what she will think, or what she will do, when she finally discovers that he is the infamous Black Reaper. In the meantime, within the towering headquarters of the Chionma Group, Samuel informs the president that the majority shareholder has arrived. Raymond has entered the room. President Gregory rises to his feet, a warm smile spreading across his face as he expresses his pleasure at seeing him. He then requests that his director bring 2 cups of chamomile tea, before they both take their seats to begin their discussion. Gregory opens by asking Raymond if he encountered any trouble on his way, to which Raymond assures him the journey was perfectly smooth. Delighted to hear it, the president insists he be notified of any inconvenience, promising it would be dealt with instantly. Raymond finds a dark humor in this, knowing the president makes people disappear on a weekly basis as if it were a trivial matter. He decides it is far wiser to remain silent on the matter, and at that moment, the director returns with the 2 steaming cups of tea. Without any preamble, Gregory immediately asks if Raymond might be willing to provide some crucial information regarding the next round. Raymond finds the man's directness intriguing. He calmly picks up his teacup, a calculated look in his eyes. He replies that there is no issue, as sharing that very information was the entire purpose of his visit, which greatly pleases the president. However, Raymond adds a condition, warning that in exchange for this intelligence, he wishes to call a general assembly. The time had come to turn to matters of business, starting with the significant proposal to change the company's very name. And not just its name, but some of its fundamental operations. Yanglok inquired what was required of him, receiving a deceptively simple answer. He would need the president's unwavering support for every single item on the General Assembly's agenda, explaining his profound aversion to any delays. Therefore, it was imperative that Yanglok persuade the other shareholders, as a glimpse into the future revealed their eventual discontent with the current path. A flicker of apprehension crossed Yanglok's face as he questioned the nature of these proposed changes, his voice laced with concern. Our hero instantly recognized the president's curiosity. It was a perfectly natural reaction to such a monumental suggestion. Pivoting an entire business division so abruptly was a bold proposition, so he decided to cut directly to the heart of his vision. He declared his intention to establish an open market, a trading hub designed exclusively for the players. Yanglok's surprise was palpable. This was entirely unexpected. He asked if this was merely a grand strategy to enter the sales department. The protagonist confirmed it was, but with a critical distinction. They were not just joining sales. They were creating an entirely exclusive marketplace for players, a space dedicated solely to the buying and selling of items. The CEO then posed the critical question, could these items be purchased with real-world money? The answer was a confident yes, adding that the currency used would be entirely at the seller's discretion. Yanglok conceded that the logic was sound. He then pondered if players truly needed money, to which he received the reply that, at their core, they were still people. He elaborated that, for now, there was no other viable method. The astute company leader immediately seized upon his phrasing, asking what he meant by "at the moment." He wanted to know if this implied the future use of in-game coins. Ryuman was impressed by the CEO's sharp intellect and confirmed that he was correct. He explained that he'd had a fleeting vision of the future, one that revealed players who achieve level 40 will gain the ability to use coins. He elaborated that a dedicated trading system unlocks precisely after reaching level 40. This pivotal feature would finally enable players to spend their hard-earned coins directly in exchange for items. It was for this exact reason, he stressed, that he wanted to build a secure system where such transactions could occur safely. He concluded by revealing the ultimate incentive. This system would allow them to collect a transaction fee, payable in either real money or the game's own coins. Yanglok processed the sheer volume of information, his expression thoughtful as he considered the novel idea of an open market. The concept of a marketplace exclusively for players was profoundly intriguing, an untapped territory he was certain no one else had ever considered. If it were to succeed, he mused, they would not just compete, they would completely monopolize that sector of the economy. He voiced his main concern, asking if people would genuinely use such a market. The protagonist calmly replied that players had just cleared the 5th round. Consequently, he firmly believed that players must have amassed a significant surplus of items by now. He reminded Yanglok of the common knowledge that selling items back to the system's store was simply not an option. Therefore, he argued, establishing a real-world trading hub would be a revolutionary solution, and our hero pressed his point further. Most players had now reached level 20 and successfully unlocked the fusion system, leading to widespread experimentation with different combinations. If a dedicated place existed where they could effortlessly acquire items for these fusions, it would undoubtedly become the most popular destination among all players. The CEO conceded that it was an undeniably brilliant idea, his mind already racing ahead, calculating the immense potential if everything went according to plan. The future profits could be staggering. He even began to imagine creating a dedicated application to facilitate easier access for players. He also envisioned an auction system, allowing players to list their items with no additional fees. The protagonist listened intently, seeing the gears turn in his partner's mind. He realized his new associate was thoroughly invested in the proposal, and even though he was no true prophet, he felt a strong premonition. He was confident it would work out exceptionally well, as the venture was designed to be mutually beneficial for both of them. He considered how the formulas for item combinations were currently unknown territory, presenting a golden opportunity for them to monopolize this information. Beyond merely crafting various items, they held the potential to create truly unique, or even legendary-grade equipment. It was even possible they could forge divine items. Fully captivated, Yanglok voiced his complete agreement with the plan. He committed to establishing the open market, and then asked if the protagonist had any ideas for a name for their new enterprise. The protagonist confessed he didn't have one yet, and deferred to the CEO, asking if he had anything in mind. Yang Lok responded that his own opinion mattered little in this. Everything the protagonist had laid out should be the guiding principle. As a major shareholder himself, Leo Miles is thrilled by the news and proposes a fitting name: Player Place. With the platform's focus being the players, Julian Cross readily agrees that he likes the idea. Noting that people could abbreviate it to PP, our protagonist then shifts the conversation. He asks how long it will take to construct the system, and Julian Cross estimates it should be operational in about 1 month. Ryu then interjects, remarking that the 6th round will commence soon, and since the subject has been broached, he offers to share vital information about the upcoming event, a statement that immediately captures their undivided attention. After hearing all the details, Julian Cross becomes thoughtful, processing the full weight of what he has just learned. He understands that cooperation between players will be crucial in the 6th round, and extends his sincere gratitude for the shared intelligence. He reflects on his choice to maintain a good relationship with the Prophet, deeming it an excellent strategic decision. Thanks to that alliance, challenges have become significantly more manageable, both inside the game and in the real world. He then pivots the conversation back to business, stressing the need to schedule an imminent meeting. With the other shareholders and directors on the agenda and their current business settled, the two men part ways. Julian Cross then instructs his head of security to escort our protagonist home and to relay all the pertinent information to Aaron. Several days later, Leo Miles lies in his bed, his mind consumed by the anticipation of the day the epic items are scheduled to appear. He decides to check the item of the day, his heart pounding with excitement as the legendary Torn Wanderer's tunic finally materializes. It is an armor-type equipment of epic rarity, though it only increases his defense by a single point. Its true power lies in its effect, a staggering 30% increase to both attack speed and movement speed. He is aware the defensive stat is practically useless, but the massive boost to agility more than compensates. He also knows it is highly unusual for epic items to cost just 20,000 coins, so he acquires it instantly without a second thought. He knows the days of relying on the system shop are numbered, especially with the dawn of an open market designed exclusively for players. He also understood that the real value wasn't in the fused items themselves, but in the secret knowledge of their creation. With guaranteed blueprints, the demand would be astronomical, as no one would risk their capital on experiments. The chance of failure was too high for mere trial and error, which led him to a powerful conclusion. If they could seize control of these creation instructions, these veritable recipes for power, their profits would be limitless, and upon launch, they wouldn't just join the open market, they would utterly dominate it. He leaned back, the weight of his grand strategy momentarily eclipsed by the immediate hurdle he still had to overcome. The shareholder meeting was the very next day, a showdown that would take place within the company's main building. The following morning, Sangchul moved with quiet competence, distributing the informational packets and directing the shareholders to their seats. The meeting proceeded without any major interruptions, though a palpable air of reluctance emanated from some of the more conservative investors. But Ryuman fielded every question with flawless composure, his answers dismantling their doubts until every issue was resolved and a consensus was reached. Afterwards, an impressed Yanglok thanked him for the brilliant explanations, genuinely asking how he had become so commanding in front of an audience. Ryuman simply replied that it was the fruit of countless hours of practice, to which the CEO announced that the next phase, building the open market, would begin immediately. He then told Ryuman to cast aside all other concerns and focus his entire being on one singular goal: surviving the 6th round. Ryuman understood the true depth of his friend's words. He was terrified that this time, he might actually die. Without the guiding light of prophecy, his life was no longer a certainty. Shaking off the heavy atmosphere, Yanglok invited him to lunch, and Ryuman accepted. He mused that his corporate work was finished for now. All that was left was to properly lead the young men under his charge. At that very moment, in another part of the city, the Players' Alliance was holding its routine assembly. Four Eyes offered a somber greeting, but Yamti immediately questioned his grim expression, demanding to know if something had gone wrong. He asked in disbelief if she truly hadn't heard the news yet. Her denial was met with a shocking revelation. He explained that they had completely lost contact with two players, the one known as I Am 30 Years Old, and the notorious Honey Jelly, since the 5th round, and she is convinced they could not have survived the last trial they endured. The thought troubles her. She finds it strange, as she cannot imagine anyone feeling genuine sadness over this. They only knew each other through video calls, after all, and only then does the cynical idea truly take hold in her mind, that the man is merely putting on a performance, playing the part of a pitiable victim for the president's benefit. After all, she knew the president was one of the most respected figures among them, being the very founder of the alliance, and in the real world, it is only natural to try and ingratiate oneself with a person holding such a high position. As these thoughts raced through her mind, she decided she would not be outplayed, so she began her own performance, even summoning tears. She wailed that she couldn't believe these two precious players had fallen, and like a contagion, everyone else on the call followed suit. As they begged each other not to cry, claiming they felt the same sorrow, Yumti found the entire display of pretense utterly ridiculous. In that moment, she was more certain than ever that people were truly incomprehensible creatures. The president's face suddenly appeared in the video call, his voice cutting through the charade, demanding to know what was happening and why everyone was so distressed. Lostiak recounted the entire tragic story, leaving the president in disbelief, unable to fathom how this was even possible. Though he was relieved that everyone else had made it through, he deeply lamented their loss, now that only 6 of them remained. At that moment, a member broke the somber mood, asking if they might consider bringing new people into the group. He replied that he had indeed considered it, but he was unsure how they could possibly find individuals of sufficient caliber. To make matters worse, they hadn't received any news from the last candidates who had attempted to join the alliance. Lostiak confirmed this, adding that he had even tried to contact them days ago, only to be met with complete silence. The president voiced a grim theory, wondering aloud if those candidates had also perished during the 5th round. Lostiak responded that the only certainty they possessed amidst the chaos was that the Black Reaper was still alive. The president acknowledged that everyone had witnessed the results of the 5th round, and he believed that if someone was truly that powerful, this is an individual who conceals his true abilities, both within the game and in his everyday life. He struggles to understand why such a formidable person has been absent until this moment. Lostiak admits he is equally unsure. Another member then posits a chilling theory. Was the Black Reaper simply toying with them all along? The president questions if the applicant might have been an imposter, someone other than the true Black Reaper. And perhaps the reason for this long silence is because he, too, perished during the catastrophic 5th round. They collectively conclude that this explanation makes a terrifying amount of sense, until Mukbang suddenly remarks that a major figure, like the Black Reaper, would scarcely bother with a mere cafe, only to be struck with immediate regret for his careless words. This comment instantly draws the sharp, unnerving attention of the president and other members, who demand to know what he meant by cafe. They press him on what kind of cafe he was referring to, reminding him that this is the very community that unifies players. It is the foundation for a new era, the president states coldly. Before asking if Mukbang harbors some sort of dissatisfaction, he descends into panic, stammering apologies and insisting that wasn't his intention, but the president abruptly makes an announcement. From this moment forward, Mukbang is to be stripped of his official position and permanently banned from the cafe. He emphasizes that at critical junctures like this, they cannot afford to have individuals who belittle their very foundation. The player panics as the situation turns disastrously against him. The president reinforces the decision, stating Mukbang will be added to the blacklist. This, he declares, will be a lesson in adapting to the new era, before unceremoniously ejecting him from the video conference. With a chilling calm, he then requests that the meeting resume, now that the disruptive element has been purged. An oppressive silence fills the void, until Lostiak lets out a gasp, announcing that a new player has just registered under a very specific name, Black Reaper. The information sends a shockwave through the group, each member struggling to believe it could be true. Lostiak confirms its authenticity, but notes that the registered real name is different from the one they had on file. The current name, he reports without a hint of hesitation, is Young Min. The president declares their next move, to visit the supposed Black Reaper's residence and ascertain if he is the genuine article. He emphasizes that if there is even the slightest chance of his authenticity, they are obligated to pursue it. Logan questions what they will do if it proves to be a hoax, to which the president coldly replies that the individual will pay a heavy price for daring to mock them. Meanwhile, the protagonist, sitting before a computer screen, foresees the chaos that another imposter, masquerading under his name, will cause. He knows the public won't ignore this, and he anticipates that the Alliance officials will use this as a perfect excuse. Their pretext will be to investigate the Black Reaper's supposed home, an address that he knows belongs to Ethan Young. As he leaves the internet cafe, his thoughts are consumed by the imposter's absurd demands, insisting on taking a life as a prerequisite for joining the group. The very idea of treating members like indentured servants is beyond belief. a strategy that only creates a deeper chasm between civilians and players. He knows this path leads only to self-destruction, and with this grim knowledge, he reflects on the inevitable outcome. He cannot stand by and watch it unfold. Therefore, he decides to eliminate the corrupt officials within the Flasiba organization. He will then harness the organization's power for his own strategic advantage, turning their influence into his own. He is aware that in the future, Flasiba will grow into a colossal force, amassing more than 30% of the entire country's players. Consequently, instead of destroying it, he concludes it is far more beneficial to seize control of it. It is a means to command countless players, the very reason he sought to join the infamous Flasiba in the first place. He resolves that after using Ethan Young to topple the current leadership, he will ascend to the position of president himself. Elsewhere, a shop door swings open, and a figure steps inside. The vendor greets him warmly, but the man is a robber. The intruder orders him to hand over all his money if he values his life. The old man panics, asking if he is a player, but the man is losing his patience. He slams his fist on the table, shattering it with a single, devastating blow, and snarls, "Do you think this is some kind of joke?" Terrified, the old man immediately begins to gather his money, frantically stuffing everything he has into the man's backpack. The robber demands to know if that is all he has, and the old man affirms it, explaining that sales have plummeted since the lottery tickets were suspended. With business clearly at a standstill, he made his approach. He cut him off, warning that petty cash wasn't his target, revealing he knew about a hidden safe. He tossed a backpack over, instructing the man to retrieve the real money. The terrified seller scrambled away, returning moments later with stacks of bills. The robber confirmed a total of 10 million won. With the fortune secured in the backpack, he deemed it sufficient and turned to leave, but not without delivering a chilling final warning. He made it clear that if he was reported, he would escape from any police station and return to end him. He then plunged into the street, running to disappear from the scene. After putting some distance between them, he finally pulled down his hood, revealing the face of the desperate robber. It was, in fact, Young Min. He felt a momentary surge of success, thinking that with his stolen gains, he could at least get through the month without worry. A furious tremor suddenly coursed through him. While this money offered a lifeline in the real world, it meant nothing for his other life. He had no idea how he would survive in that other world, and he seethed with rage, blaming the Black Reaper for the loss of all his friends. Overwhelmed with frustration and questions about his stats, he let out a shout, only to be startled by a cat rustling in the shadows behind him. He composed himself and continued walking, his thoughts consumed by a dark fantasy of what he would do if he ever encountered the Black Reaper in real life. He swore he would utterly destroy him. Finally arriving at his apartment building, the weight of the night began to settle in. As he climbed the worn-out stairs, he noticed a silhouette standing directly in front of his door. It was Lostiak. The figure turned, his gaze sharp, and asked, "You wouldn't happen to be Young Min, would you?" The tough facade crumbled, replaced by pure fear. He was paralyzed, his mind racing to identify this stranger at his apartment, until Lostiak calmly stated that his reaction had confirmed his identity. Young Min's first panicked question was whether he was from the police, a query that Lostiak found oddly amusing. "Have you committed a crime to be so frightened?" he asked with a faint smile, before formally introducing himself. He identified himself as the person in charge of interviews for the Flasiba group, and then asked, "Weren't you supposed to be there this morning?" Young Min, utterly bewildered, demanded to know what was happening, even accusing him of trying to push illegal substances. Lostiak's confident demeanor faltered into confusion. "I'm sorry," he asked, "are you not the Black Reaper?" A question that only intensified Young Min's profound irritation. Completely bewildered, he stammers, questioning the meaning of the Black Reaper and Flasiba, then quickly apologizes for the apparent disturbance. But Ethan, his voice strained with anxiety, presses for an explanation, demanding to know what is happening as his confusion mounts. Lorik calmly explains that it appears someone familiar with him decided to orchestrate an elaborate prank, given that the name and address were a perfect match. Ethan's face twists in fury as he demands to know who the culprit is, and at that very moment, a new figure emerges from the shadows. The stranger coolly claims responsibility with a simple greeting, but Ethan cannot recognize him, his face entirely concealed behind a mask. He challenges the man, asking who this imposter is and if they know each other, to which the masked man replies with chilling certainty that he obviously does. Without another word, he begins to summon his weapon, and a magnificent scythe materializes in his grasp, radiating an oppressive and menacing aura. With the weapon in hand, he asks if that provides a sufficient answer. Lorik stares in disbelief, unable to process a player wielding a scythe of such impossible size. He silently wonders if this could truly be the legendary Black Reaper, yet he finds the man's physical appearance strangely dissonant. The figure is short, with a build so slight it appears almost delicate, a stark contrast to the powerful warrior he had always imagined. This reality is so completely different from the image he held of the Black Reaper that his mind struggles to accept it. Meanwhile, a cold wave of panic crashes over Ethan. He is terrifyingly certain that the genuine Black Reaper is standing right in front of him. Even though the physique is all wrong, he recognizes the cadence of his speech and the identical chilling pressure of his aura. And most importantly, that terrifying look in his eyes, a gaze he had seen countless times. Ethan begins to tremble, unable to comprehend why this is happening. His mind races, desperately trying to understand why the Black Reaper would track him down in the real world, let alone use his own name to do it. To his knowledge, they had no unsettled scores, and he is paralyzed with worry because, worst of all, the man had arrived armed. Lorik glances to the side, noticing the violent tremors racking Ethan's entire body. That sight solidifies his conviction that this is indeed the true Black Reaper, as only he could provoke such a profound and visceral fear. Only someone who had truly faced the legend could react this way, and Lorik knew with grim certainty that he wouldn't stand a chance, even at level 20. Just then, the masked figure's voice cuts through the tension, his gaze seemingly fixed on him, stating that he already knows he is not alone, and dismisses everyone present, stating with cold certainty that he is aware of everything. The man is stunned by this sudden discovery, and at that very moment, the other members of the group appear. Though they are baffled as to how they were found, their confusion turns to fear as our hero points his scythe directly at them. He issues a grim warning, "Come any closer, and they will all perish." Trower scoffs, calling him an arrogant brat. He refuses to believe this boy is the true Black Reaper, but his colleague quickly silences him. He steps forward and asks our hero if he is truly the one. In response, the boy brandishes his infamous scythe. He asks if the weapon itself is not answer enough, but Choji explains that he has indeed heard tales of a player whose primary weapon is a scythe, but having never witnessed it himself, he cannot accept it on faith alone. It is then that Rumen declares that this boy is the genuine Black Reaper. With that proclamation, the Truth Rune activates, granting Choji the official, undeniable confirmation that he is, in fact, the Black Reaper. Trower demands to know what the rune revealed, and Choji confirms that it is truly him. Lost Jack breaks into a cold sweat. He was convinced it was impossible, that this had to be an imposter. But the one seized by true panic is Trower, who had shown blatant disrespect to our hero upon his arrival. He believes he is completely finished, having run his mouth, and doubts any apology could possibly save him now. Nevertheless, he makes a desperate attempt, saying it is an incredible honor to meet the legendary Black Reaper. Ryomen, however, remains unimpressed, stating that he disliked their profound distrust and now orders them to confirm his identity for themselves. They must use whatever abilities they possess. Trower's panic deepens as his situation spirals further out of his control. He immediately prostrates himself on the ground, offering his most sincere apologies for his insolence. Our hero tells him his apology is worthless, considering they were the ones who relentlessly bothered him, demanding confirmation. Choji attempts to de-escalate the tension, insisting that there is absolutely no need for any further confirmation, as they finally acknowledge his power, explaining that his display was merely the effect of a unique rune he possessed. Riker counters with a chilling proposition. If they can withstand a single one of his strikes, he'll consider the entire matter forgiven. Trevor, seized by terror, begins to stammer another apology, but his words are cut short in a fraction of a second. With a flick of his wrist, Riker makes a deceptively simple motion with his scythe, and the man's head is sent flying as if it were nothing. The brutal, instantaneous act leaves the young men frozen in fear. Logan, too, is utterly consumed by panic. His mind couldn't process what had just unfolded. The scythe had moved with such impossible speed, he hadn't even registered its swing. That same paralyzing shock gripped Chase, his gaze fixed on the empty space where his companion had stood just a moment before. Overcome by dread, Logan finally finds his voice, screaming out, "What in the world was that?" Riker calmly replies that he just offered a demonstration, proving with undeniable skill that he is the true Black Reaper. However, he adds that such a display shouldn't have been necessary, surmising they had come to recruit him. But their minds reel at the thought. It would be a complete disaster to welcome a madman who introduces himself by taking heads. Chase's thoughts echoed the same sentiment. Accepting someone so volatile was a monumental risk, and if they couldn't keep him in check, they would have to eliminate him right then and there. Yet both knew Riker was level 40, a fight that would be anything but easy. A desperate plan forms. They will feign surrender, earn his trust for a fleeting moment, and then strike when he least expects it. But their plotting is utterly transparent, for Riker can read their thoughts, and he scoffs at their ridiculous scheme. He remarks on how foolish they are, broadcasting their killing intent so openly, as if he were completely oblivious. Chase feigns ignorance, denying everything, but Riker simply states that he was already aware of their intentions. He details their strategy aloud. They would bow their heads in false submission, only to launch a surprise attack from behind. Then, Riker poses a question that chills them to the bone. "Do you know why I chose to register under Evan's name?" He doesn't wait for an answer, revealing that his entire purpose was to use that name as bait to draw the Alliance leaders to him. Laster confronts the intruder, demanding to know his purpose, and Raymond offers a chillingly simple reply. He is there, he declares, to personally extinguish the lives of every leader present. A cold dread washes over Chase as the dire reality of their situation becomes clear. His mind races, desperately searching for a way to reason with the man, to stall for time their only conceivable path to survival. Yet the thought barely forms before his world shatters. His friend Laster falling lifelessly from a single, devastating attack. A new wave of panic crashes over him, confirming his deepest fear. The legendary Black Reaper had truly lured them into a trap designed for their complete annihilation. Chase's composure breaks as he screams, demanding what grudge the Reaper could possibly hold against the player Alliance. Raymond raises his scythe, its cold edge hovering by the spectacled man's neck as he speaks of the innocent people they had slaughtered. He calls out their pathetic excuse of it being an interview test. Chase is paralyzed with horror. "It's all true." "How?" he stammers. "How could you know that?" Raymond's voice drips with contempt, adding that the interview to become chief was a far more depraved affair. He was forced to eliminate an innocent person, all alone. Chase frantically tries to justify himself, claiming the targets were not innocent at all. He calls them vermin who dared to despise the players, spitting that such hypocrites deserved nothing less than death. Raymond finds this morbidly fascinating. "In that case," he asks, his voice dangerously soft, "what do you deserve? You, who are also a hypocrite." Offended, Chase snaps back that he knows nothing. But Raymond has grown weary of the lies, for he knows everything. His rune of inner sight had laid bare all of Chase's twisted thoughts. Without another word, Raymond's scythe swings, and Chase's head is severed from his shoulders. He stares blankly at the body crumpled on the ground. In his eyes, he had simply disposed of a murderous piece of trash. His gaze then drifts to the side, landing on young man, who is shaking uncontrollably like a leaf in a hurricane. Seeing this, he offers a hollow comfort. "Don't be afraid. You'll be joining your old friends very soon." The words pierce Youngman's fear, replaced by disbelief. He asks how the Reaper could possibly know about his friends. Raymond answers that it was easy, since they were always together, even though Youngman was merely a tag-along dragged into their affairs. Then, slowly removing his mask, he poses a final question. "Do you really not know who I am?" The face revealed is none other than his old classmate, Raymond. The bully who had once made his life a living hell stood before him, immediate recognition dawning in his eyes. Leo was utterly stunned, his mind flashing back to the days he relentlessly tormented Rylan, extorting money, and worse. His brain simply couldn't bridge the gap. The failure he once knew could not possibly be the infamous Black Reaper. He refused to believe they were the same soul. Rylan let out a cold laugh, seeing the utter disbelief. He commented that such confusion was, in a way, understandable. After all, a mere 1 year ago, he was still the one being beaten by this very bully. The terrified Leo finally stammered out a question. He asked if Rylan had been faking his weakness all along. The question was puzzling, as Rylan had never pretended to be anything he wasn't. In that same instant, with a chillingly casual motion, he relieved Leo of his arm, sending the bully collapsing to the ground with a scream of pure agony. Rylan made it clear that hearing the word failure from a piece of trash was, frankly, quite offensive. He then ordered him to be silent, lest he lose his tongue as well. Leo bit down hard, stifling his cries of pain. Only when the whimpering stopped did Rylan activate his healing magic. As a reward for his prompt obedience, the severed limb was cauterized and healed. Though the limb itself did not regenerate, Rylan noted that it wasn't much of a problem, considering Leo would be taking his final breath very soon. The large man, trembling from head to toe, asked if he was truly the same Rylan he used to know, and he answered with absolute finality. The weak Rylan the bullies once knew was long gone, erased from existence. As he raised his scythe for the final blow, he offered a simple, chilling farewell. Panic seized Leo. He begged him to wait, openly confessing the depths of the cruelty he had shown him in the past. With that confession came a torrent of apologies, insisting on his sincerity as he pleaded desperately for his life. Rylan paused, asking if he was being serious. Leo swore that he had never been more serious in his entire life. He added that ending a worthless life like his offered no real benefit, and that he could be used for something far more productive. This piqued Ryland's interest. He questioned how, precisely, he could be of use, and Leo proposed himself as the perfect, groveling servant. He promised to obey any order, to crawl, to run, to perform even the most demeaning and insignificant tasks without question, or even be used as expendable bait in hunts. Ryuman weighs the proposition for a fleeting moment before delivering his cold verdict. That won't be necessary, he states flatly, his perception revealing the treacherous thoughts still swirling within the bully's mind. He understood the pledge of loyalty was a hollow performance, a desperate ploy to create an opening and strike him down from behind. A cold sweat breaks out across the young man's brow as a terrifying realization dawns upon him. How could the Black Reaper, this impossibly powerful figure, know his innermost thoughts? Was it some profound insight, or just a chillingly accurate guess? In response, Ryuman raises his scythe once more, his voice a low growl, warning that a disloyal dog that dares to bite its master has no place by his side. And your usefulness, he adds coldly, has ended. As the words hang in the air, the young man desperately pleads for one last chance, but his pleas are met with silence. With a single, fluid motion, Ryuman's blade flashes, and the man collapses to the ground, his life extinguished. Ryuman reflects that a chance had already been given in a past life, remembering a time before he possessed the power of the inner thoughts chamber. Back then, he had naively fallen for Yang Min's deception and spared his life a mistake that proved costly during the deadly game. The traitor had ambushed him, striking from the shadows with a devastating blow. With this memory sealing his resolve, he finally sheds the dead weight from his past. He hopes that this final act will sever the long chain of betrayal, ensuring he never has to look upon Yang Min's treacherous face again. Taking a deep breath to center himself, he turns his attention to the grim task of cleansing the scene. He activates his skill, Erase Traces, and an unnatural black flame erupts, consuming every last vestige of the conflict. He directs the consuming darkness over the fallen forms on the ground, until nothing remains, leaving the area pristine and untouched. With the task complete, he decides it's time to pay a visit to a certain individual's residence. Meanwhile, across the city, Yami, of the Placebo Group, enters a video conference, offering a quick and professional greeting to the president. Choji, surprised by her sudden appearance, confirms her presence. Yami replies, noting that apparently, the meeting with the notorious Black Reaper has already concluded. She then looks around the virtual room, asking where the other members are. With a heavy, downcast expression, Choji delivers the devastating news. Every chief who attended that interview has been eliminated. A cold sweat trickled down her spine, as she wondered what kind of monster would commit such an act. The horrifying realization hit her like a physical blow. It could only be the Black Reaper himself. The president's grim voice confirmed her worst fears. It appeared this infamous player was systematically hunting their cafe's members. Yampi pieced it all together, her voice trembling, as she noted that this meant even the newest recruits from their last drive had fallen victim to the very same individual. She desperately asked what those people could have possibly done to deserve such a fate. He replied that, for a player of that caliber, a reason isn't always necessary. He speculated it might have been for nothing more than twisted amusement, before offering another theory. Perhaps the protagonist felt threatened by their organization's expanding influence. Yampi grew pensive, reflecting that in any world, there are always those who seek to tear down what others build. Their success, she concluded, must have been a beacon for someone consumed by envy or a similar dark motive. If that were true, she resolved grimly, they would have no choice but to find a way to eliminate the Black Reaper for good. A chilling thought struck her, and Yampi voiced it aloud. Could he have registered with them for the sole purpose of luring the cafe's leaders? The president's grave confirmation sent a wave of panic through her. It appears so, he said, and her composure shattered. She had once been eager to meet the legendary Reaper in person. Now, she couldn't believe she'd been so naive, never imagining he was a complete psychopath, one who clearly viewed them as nothing more than prey. Had she accepted his application to become a chief, the consequences would have been catastrophic. Indeed, Choi affirmed, his tone heavy with the weight of that near miss. He admitted that he himself might have been one of the Reaper's victims. From this moment on, he declared, the Black Reaper was their sworn enemy. Their new mission was to hunt him down and avenge their fallen comrades. Still, Yampi clung to a sliver of hope, asking if there was any possibility. They were certain it wasn't just an imposter. The president crushed that hope with 2 words, "We have a witness." And that witness was none other than Ryomen. After their discussion concluded, the president announced his departure and promptly disconnected from the call. One by one, the other members began to sign off, but Yampi remained, her attention now fixed on the protagonist. urging him to rest, certain that he must be in shock after witnessing everything the Black Reaper had done. He coolly replies that he is fine, and thanks her for the concern, before the man known as Lostiak ends the call. With the video feed cut, Ryuman allows himself a smile. It appears his act had convinced everyone, leaving no room for suspicion. He decides to remove his disguise, reverting to his true appearance, and muses internally that he would make for a truly great actor. He recalls that during the game, he had chosen the assassin's mask as his reward from the 5th round. He desperately needed a unique item, and it had presented itself as the perfect choice. This was the assassin's mask. Its effect was deceptively simple: to perfectly disguise the user as the last person they had killed, activated by the single word, disguise. The power to transform into the very person he had just eliminated was, he imagined, an incredible strategic asset. It offered a tremendous advantage, as there is no assassination more effortless than one carried out through the betrayal of an ally. He reflected that he could even eliminate the cafe director and assume his form, but unfortunately, there was a catch. The mask held no power over non-players, and he found it deeply ironic that the leader of a group of players was not one himself. He considered that it would be exceedingly difficult to get close to the player named Yampi. She was an exceptionally powerful woman, and he decided a different approach was necessary. It would be wiser to avoid direct contact with the executives for now. His primary mission was to continue his flawless impersonation of Lostiak. Leaving the house, he presumed he would be safe from pursuit until at least the next scheduled meeting. He also noted that he would soon need to restore the durability of the Pearl of Eternal Rest. This, he concluded, would apparently require a bit of travel. Meanwhile, across the world in England, a blacksmith toiled over his weapon. After plunging the blade into water to cool it, he noticed it was finally reaching the ideal point of tempering. Following a final, careful sharpening, a sense of pride washed over him. At long last, it was finished. However, the moment of triumph faded as he grew downcast, placing the dagger back on the table with the somber thought that there was no real point in getting excited, for his business had collapsed. The arrival of the angels having driven away nearly all his clientele. The number of customers had plummeted, and with a heavy sigh, he admitted that after enduring for so long, he had reached his breaking point. His funds were exhausted, and it seemed more sensible to search for another line of work, a thought that pained him deeply. Despite his circumstances, he desperately wished to remain in this place for the rest of his days, frantically searching his mind for a solution. Suddenly, a flicker of an idea ignited within him, a rumor he had once heard. Surviving until the 20th round of the game would grant a single wish. The thought of this possibility sent a jolt of excitement through him. He couldn't abandon his lifelong dreams just yet. All he needed to do was hold on until that wish was his, for even though this wasn't his original world, his path was clear. His destiny, he knew with unwavering certainty, was to be a blacksmith. Recalling the days he spent felling monsters, he remembered the powerful weapon polishing skill he acquired at level 20, a technique that amplified a weapon's damage by a staggering 150%. This memory rekindled his spirit, his resolve hardening with the determination to reach the very end. But just as quickly, the high spirits crashed into a wall of despair. To achieve this, he needed money, a resource he completely lacked. With a heart heavy with disappointment, he resolved to set his dream aside, at least until he could save some funds. He told himself that, once he had managed to build a small fortune, he could once again pursue his true passion. And so, with a final, reluctant decision, he prepared to descend the mountain in search of employment. It was at that very moment that Rayuman approached the cabin, his presence startling the blacksmith from his somber thoughts. The man found it peculiar, seeing someone of Asian descent in such a remote area, an exceptionally uncommon sight. He called out, asking if everything was all right, and if the stranger was perhaps lost. But Rayuman simply asked if he wasn't the legendary blacksmith. Daniel stood there, stunned, demanding to know who this man was and from where he had heard his name. Rayuman calmly replied that he hadn't heard about him, but had seen him, declaring himself a prophet with the ability to witness the future. Daniel found the entire notion of a prophet utterly ridiculous, unable to comprehend what on earth this stranger was talking about, until the protagonist reveals Daniel's most hidden stats. He is level 21, a blacksmith by trade, located in area C008. The revelation sends a shockwave through the young man. Guessing his class and level by a stroke of luck was one thing, but knowing his precise area was beyond coincidence. He demands to know if Rayuman can truly see the future. Since it's the first he's ever heard of such a power, Rayuman explains that his is a rare class, and for that reason, not widely known. He elaborates on the concept of unique classes, revealing that only a single individual can ever hold the title of the prophet. Daniel, still finding the situation bizarre, questions why someone so incredibly powerful would ever come to a place like his secluded cabin. The protagonist asks him to settle down, assuring him he is only there on business and simply needs him to repair an item. If Daniel uses his blacksmithing skill to help him, he will, in return, provide him with invaluable information. The bait is tantalizing, specific details concerning the upcoming 6th round. The young blacksmith is stunned to hear this. His mind races, contemplating the immense advantage of knowing what the 6th round holds in advance. It would allow him to formulate a perfect strategy, yet he knows that fixing a single item, in exchange for such world-altering knowledge, seems far too good to be true. He cautiously asks if Ryuman will genuinely provide information on the 6th round for just a simple repair. "And you won't ask for anything else?" he presses. The protagonist sees that the blacksmith's cautious nature remains unchanged. He even thinks to himself that if Daniel had agreed so readily, he would have been genuinely disappointed. And so, he changes his approach. "Actually," he says, "I want to get to know you better." Daniel grows anxious about where this is heading. Ryuman then reveals a vision. He saw a future where Daniel becomes the greatest blacksmith in existence. In this vision, he survives all the way to the 15th round without any assistance, but Ryuman admits his foresight ended at that point. He calls it a shame and lays his true offer on the table. He wants to help Daniel, proposing they become allies. If he agrees, Ryuman guarantees that he will flourish effortlessly, even surpassing the challenges of the 15th round. With this knowledge, his ambition of becoming the world's greatest blacksmith would be all but assured. As this staggering realization settled in, he finally voiced the question weighing on his mind: what did this mysterious figure truly want in return? Kalen simply replied that he wanted nothing much, proposing a simple act of mutual assistance. He knew, however, that Daniel was the only blacksmith to have ever reached the 15th round, a unique and valuable distinction. It was therefore strategically vital to maintain a friendly relationship, and sensing the young man's uncertainty, he felt it was the perfect moment to offer a gentle nudge toward a favorable decision. He clarified that his request was simple. He just wanted Daniel to lend his expert eye to a piece of his equipment. In exchange, he would provide invaluable information about the next round, promising that with this knowledge, Daniel would grow stronger, far more rapidly than if he were to advance blindly. Daniel mulled over the proposition. He could find no logical reason to refuse the offer, yet he couldn't shake the question of whether it was wise to trust someone so easily. Even though the offer felt genuine, his instincts screamed for caution in this unforgiving world. After a moment of internal debate, he expressed his gratitude but confessed that he could not give an answer just yet. He asked if he might have until after the 6th round to consider it, a condition Kalen found perfectly acceptable. "It wasn't," he remarked, as if he were demanding a binding contract. In a show of goodwill, Daniel offered to repair an item for him. The information about the 6th round could be shared later. With their temporary agreement settled, Kalen presented the object whose durability he wished to restore, the legendary Marble of Eternal Sleep. This artifact gained 1 accumulation for every monster defeated, at the cost of 1 point of its durability. Every 100 accumulations could be converted into a single, precious, attribute point. Its durability now stood at a mere 1, having been exhausted the other 999 times. He handed the marble to the blacksmith, who immediately focused his aura into the artifact. Just 1 minute later, he returned it, its power fully renewed. Roman took the necklace, a subtle joy illuminating his face as he felt its renewed energy, an expression Daniel watched with keen interest. The young blacksmith might not have understood the artifact's true purpose, but he could certainly recognize its profound value to its owner. It was clearly an item cherished enough for a player to expend resources on restoring its durability, a sign of its immense worth. Roman sensed the blacksmith was unaware of the necklace's power and appreciated that he didn't pry, respecting his privacy. With its durability returned to maximum, he offered his sincere thanks, prompting Daniel to ask if he was now ready to speak of round 6. Roman affirmed and began to detail the coming events, leaving Daniel deep in thought after the grim explanation concluded. The blacksmith considered the dire warning, realizing he would need to gather powerful allies if it was true. At that moment, Roman shifted the conversation, asking if he had anything to sell. He specifically mentioned black steel powder, a name that made the blacksmith's heart skip a beat. Daniel was stunned, never imagining a stranger would know of his hidden supply. Roman calmly asked if he would be willing to part with some. He then added with uncanny insight that he suspected Daniel was searching for a new job due to a lack of funds. Promising to pay an exceptionally high price for the powder, Roman watched as surprise dawned on the young man's face. The fact that Roman even knew he was about to seek new employment cemented Daniel's belief in the mysterious seer class. He quickly apologized for ever doubting him, for suspecting his words might be a fabrication, But Roman simply waved it off. "Don't trouble yourself," Roman assured him calmly. "I only report what I foresee. Whether you choose to believe it is entirely your decision." Musing on this, Daniel made a decision, stating he would provide the black steel powder as a gift, free of charge. Roman was taken aback, asking for clarification, but the blacksmith simply explained his reasoning from his perspective. He felt he had received far more than he had given, making the trade of the item for the priceless information a more than fair exchange. He presented the pouch, stating, "This is black steel powder. Your knowledge of round 6 is worth infinitely more." The item's description was deceptively simple, noting only that it emitted a faint aura of mana. Roman couldn't believe he was receiving it for nothing. He silently reflected on the item's true worth, knowing that black steel powder was an incredibly valuable and almost impossible material to acquire before round 11. Unaware of its true worth, Daniel knows only gratitude, a feeling that compels him to ask if the young man is truly certain about the trade. He receives a firm yes, as Daniel admits his own ignorance, guessing that perhaps his guest is the only one who truly comprehends the item's immense value. As a seer, his intuition screams that this strange black steel powder must be of monumental importance, and because a man with the gift of sight specifically sought this item, Daniel feels it would be unwise to pry any further. He had already received an invaluable gift, crucial information about the 6th round. To ask for more would be an act of pure greed. Our protagonist feels a wave of satisfaction as he perceives these thoughts, confirming that Daniel is undeniably a man of good character. He presents a heavy backpack, instructing Daniel to open it. Inside, the blacksmith's eyes widen at the sight of stacked bills, a fortune he can barely comprehend as our hero states the total, $30,000. He explains that he has no intention of taking such a rare item without offering proper compensation. When asked if the sum is enough for the house materials, Daniel, with a voice full of joy, confirms it's more than enough, an absolute blessing. For a fleeting moment, he imagines a future free from the desperate search for work, only to snap back to reality, realizing he was lost in a daydream. He stammers, asking if this isn't far too much money, but the young seer simply shakes his head, responding with a calm no. He explains that the item is worth every cent, adding that this payment is for more than just new building materials. The blacksmith's confusion deepens when he's then instructed to open an international investment account. The request grows stranger still. He is to invest half of that money into Korean stocks, leaving Daniel utterly bewildered. But our protagonist simply advises him to invest in a company called Player Place, while making it clear this is a choice, not a command. He offers only a single, potent warning. That company is about to explode, and a wise investment now means he will never have to worry about money again. Without a moment's hesitation, Daniel agrees, his faith absolute. After all, the man before him is a seer who has already proven his worth. They exchange numbers and bid farewell, but just before parting, Daniel asks for his name. Ryuman, he replies. Time passes, and on the 1st of June, Ryuman is engulfed in light, transported with his powerful new items to the arena of the 6th round. One by one, the other players materialize around him, their murmurs and exclamations quickly filling the air as they realize they've been summoned to a vast, unforgiving desert. With no clue what kind of challenge lay ahead, Ethan scanned the crowd, speculating that the 6th round would require cooperation. He knew he would need to assemble a team, and his thoughts immediately turned to Julie. He felt he needed no one else but her. This would leave 3 spots open, as the groups were composed of 5 people each, a testament to his confidence in their combined strength. Just then, a familiar voice caught his attention, and as he turned, he saw it was Julie making her way toward him. She approached with a bright smile, expressing her delight at seeing him and asking how he'd been. He replied that he was well, acknowledging it had been some time. Julie laughed, pointing out it had been an entire month, while onlookers murmured amongst themselves, wondering who this woman could be. In their eyes, she must have been out of her mind to speak so casually with a man of his immense power. They soon recognized her by the nickname Democracy, recalling she was the runner-up in the previous round, and a pang of jealousy struck them, envious of her friendship with the top-ranked player. As they began to walk together, she brought up a question that had been on her mind. She asked if, by some chance, he had been the one to defeat the final boss of the 5th round, to which he simply confirmed he had. Astonished, she questioned how he could have possibly managed it in such a short period, realizing it must also mean he had cleared the secret side mission. Ethan casually replied that it was an easy task, but playfully refused to reveal the reward he had obtained. A look of surprise crossed her face as she asked how he knew that was exactly what she was about to ask, and they continued their walk. It was only then that Julie noticed Ethan's steady gaze upon her, a realization that sent a wave of embarrassment through her. Believing she had been babbling nonsense to someone so far above her station, She quickly offered an apology. She explained how flustered she felt, but Ethan seemed genuinely confused, not understanding why she felt the need to apologize. He then thanked her for her earlier compliment, and she could only laugh shyly, her mind racing with the thought that the infamous Black Reaper was surprisingly kind and charismatic. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of another figure. It was Aaron, flanked by her imposing bodyguard. With a scrutinizing gaze, she asked if he was indeed the Reaper who stood before them, her eyes then shifting to the woman by his side, wondering about her identity. And that's our story for now. If you enjoyed this summary, please subscribe and activate notifications for more content.